time to talk 90s to me, the show that has girl crushes on Princess Diana and Courtney Love, Missy Elliott and Anneka Rice, because that is correct, and of course we have. I'm Miranda Sawyer, and today I am really excited to talk to a woman who knows everything there is to know about 90s alternative music, both the American type and the British version, and who makes an amazing podcast that explains all of it called Bandsplain. Hello to the fabulous Yasi Salek. Hiya.
Oh my God, hello, cheerio. I'm so happy to be here. What an honor.
Okay, look, Yasi, today we're going to be talking about the band that we can argue, and we maybe will argue, that kickstarted the 90s and in the US.
Yeah.
That is Nirvana. And before we start, just a trigger warning, we will be talking about suicide. I'm going to give information because I like to do that. Okay, bassist Chris Novoselic, drummer Dave Grohl. Obviously, there was another drummer before, but we're not really talking about him. Sorry, everyone. And singer Kurt Cobain. And I wanted you to help me to discuss Nirvana because not only because you're a music guru, but because you were young.
Yeah, very young.
And in America.
Correct.
When they broke. Okay, so When They Broke is essentially their album Nevermind and the single Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah.
Can you remember when you came across them?
I have to think it was 92. I want to pretend it was 91, but I know it wasn't because it didn't really, this is more from my research than from my personal experience, but I know that the album came out in September of 91, but it was Christmas sales. It started to just pick up steam, and then by the top of 92, it knocked Michael Jackson off the Billboard 100
that's a big deal. It was dangerous, wasn't it?
So, I think it was around exactly that time because I was ever since I heard, and I'm so sorry to invoke another band that British people literally don't care about, the Red Hot Chili Peppers I guess it must have been also 91 because Blood Sugar Sex Magic also came out on the same day as Nevermind. It's a crazy day for music because also Tribe Called Quest Low End Theory came out that day and a Pixies album. Wild.
A lot.
Yeah. And Primal Scream.
A lot.
Yeah, all on the same day. Anyways, I heard Give It Away.
Yeah.
Radicalized me to hard rock music. I was like, what is this? I'm 9 years old. I love this. So then I got deeply invested in alternative rock music, namely through K-Rock, the best alternative rock station in the world. And they were obviously very early on playing Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah. And K-Rock is an LA rock station, which I can remember because I was working in the 90s that all the British bands wanted to get on. Everybody, it was
like a real
station.
tastemaker. If you got on K-Rock, you would kind of spread throughout the country's alternative stations. So yeah, it was around, I guess, tail end of 91, early 92. And I was quite young, but I was precocious, and particularly precocious in having angst a little bit early.
Yeah.
I also got my period early. That's probably not relevant. Or maybe it is. And I remember hearing the song and being like, this is a mirror into my soul.
Yeah. It is a mirror. But it's really funny because I do think that Smells Like Teen Spirit is almost like a year zero for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, you're younger than me, but I can remember going to, it's not naturally the music that I like. Right. I'm just not interested in American rock. It's just not my thing.
You don't like crunchy guitar? No.
I like it. I like kind of scuzzy guitars, so it is there.
Yeah.
But initially, you would think it was just American rock. And I remember going to the Camden Palace, as was now it's called Coco, and that is a club that's got a kind of dance floor that you can go on a balcony and look down, right? And I looked down, and they were playing this track, and everyone was going mad. And I thought, what is that record? That is the most amazing record in my life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I really I feel I think if people, I was too young, but I think if you were a cool 18 or 19-year-old and you were already up on Dinosaur Jr., Sonic Youth, Pixies, it's not like it was new hat for you, but for most people, they'd never heard something like that, you know, and especially not in a mainstream way. I mean, it was supplanting, I guess they kind of were simultaneous, which people forget, but Guns N' Roses, you know? MTV was kind of all Guns N' Roses and hair metal. And honestly, people always forget this, Life is a Highway. It was a lot of Life is a Highway and Vogue and stuff. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was sepia-toned, grimy video of anarchy cheerleaders in a gym with Nirvana. And you were like, what is this?
Exactly, especially because it's set in a school.
Yeah.
So that video is amazing. And it was Kurt Cobain's idea.
Yes.
He had the idea for the video.
Oh yeah, he was very hands-on.
Yeah, and that you look at that and you're like, this is just everything that somebody who is 16 wants, because it's literally kids in the video. They're actually, they're fans in the video. It's filmed inside a gym. You can see like a basketball hoop.
Yeah.
There's cheerleaders, but they've got kind of anarchy symbols on their tops.
Yeah, it's like, are we allowed to curse?
Yeah, of course.
It's like a fucked up pep rally. It's like the pep rally of the outsiders, you know, who are like, we hate it here.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And you were like, I hate it here. I also hate it here. Oh my God.
Yeah, you are me.
Yeah.
And it's also filmed like the lighting is quite like a horror show, isn't it? Like it looks a bit like a horror movie.
Yeah, it's really, I said sepia tone to be all highfalutin film school, but like, yeah, it's brown. It's like dark. And it actually, I can't help myself. This is why people don't invite me to parties. It's very interesting because that went on for a while and it had another backlash, which then all the videos became very Technicolor when it was like Weezer and like alternative rock was a complete reaction to that because they were sick of that style.
Yeah, that aesthetic. Yeah, the cardigan aesthetic.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing that it does is smash everything up. Like that, so at the end, he's smashing everything up, and that was like a big like I think if you're of that age, of a teenage age, then the idea of smashing stuff up is obviously like innate.
Yeah,
but smashing some stuff in a school is just like amazing.
Pump it in right to my heart, right? Put the EpiPen right in my heart. I also feel like there was some. I mean, it's not like there had not been angry music before that, right? But even like metal, right? You're talking about Guns N' Roses and stuff. It's pretty masculine, right?
Yeah.
There was something about Nirvana in the offering of the anger that had a feminine quality baked into it as well. And I feel like though I couldn't have articulated it at 9, 10 years old, I think that was a connection point too, you know? I was like, oh my God, I can really connect to this.
Yeah, there's actually, because in the video there's a girl moshing as well for a start, but also Kurt Cobain himself is quite physically small.
Totally.
He's incredibly pretty.
Yeah.
He looks girlish. He quite often wears dresses, doesn't he? And he looks quite girlish, so you feel a little bit welcomed in by him.
Yeah, and he didn't I always call it like, it's like negative charisma. You know, like he was very charismatic, but in a like, don't look at me, don't perceive me way.
Yeah.
And it also wasn't sexually threatening. Whereas like, you know, Axl Rose, you're like... When you're 9 and you're like, oh my, this man, or even Anthony Kiedis, honestly, it was very like the sexual prowess coming off of that man. Whereas like that threat didn't, you were definitely attracted to Kurt Cobain. You were like, this man is hot.
Yeah, but what you thinking is that he might stroke your hair.
Yeah, exactly. Like he might read me a beautiful poem.
And you might share some makeup and it would be nice.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Things are good. So when you started liking them, you're still quite young.
Yeah.
Really young. Was it like a badge? So what I always feel like certain ages, and that music in particular, if you decided you liked them, it's like a badge to say, I'm clever, I like interesting things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
100%. I think it like differentiated kids. I remember, because then, you know, you start middle school at 11. I don't know what you guys call it here. It's too many. I can't keep up with the system. But I remember going into middle school at 11 and I was like, oh, I'm an alternative kid. Like that's, because it was very, and you remember, it was, I'm sure it was the same over here. It was very segmented back then. Like you couldn't like multiple, like you had to pledge allegiance to the group that you were part of, you know? And I was like, this is my thing. Like, I'm going to wear a cardigan. I'm going to wear Doc Martens. I'm going to wear ripped Levi's, like flannels. I'm here. I live here.
Yeah. And that's funny because I think it's particularly American. Yeah. Like when we would watch kind of films that were about high schools or middle schools.
Yeah.
Everybody, there was like the jocks, the nerds.
Totally.
And all,
Clueless does it really well where they point them out. And that's really honestly how it was. It's like the stoners are over here. They're still listening to Led Zeppelin. There's ravers. And you would, like, ravers were uncool to like alternative people until later it kind of merged and everyone was like, we love ecstasy, this is fun.
Yeah.
But
it's amazing what ecstasy can do, isn't it?
It's a real uniter. Yeah, it's a real breaks down the barriers.
So like the idea, it is like a received idea that Nirvana swept away Guns N' Roses and swept away Metallica and all those kind of things.
It didn't really, but I think that's what people like to say. They stuck around for a long time. It was really, they were coexisting for a long time.
Yeah, and also I wonder about it because I think like there's particularly for young men, maybe about 13, 14, you need some kind of noise that is your noise, right? And that would traditionally have been, in America particularly, but I think here too, would have been heavy metal, right? And then it kind of here, it became punk maybe, but then Nirvana happened, but also actually hip hop happened. And I think that
100%.
everybody just switched over to hip hop. Like Nirvana was like the last gasp.
We talked about Low End Theory, but also something a little more nuanced is like Nirvana was, right, it was like grunge is here or whatever, and opened the door for then Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, these other bands who are great and I love them, so don't get me wrong, but they are from a different place. Yeah. Like Nirvana came from punk. Like spirit-wise, it's like punk and the Beatles.
Yeah, which is why I like it. And actually, I think Soundgarden and all the others, I don't like.
Yeah. That's why I was surprised that British people didn't like Nirvana. Because Nirvana is really more, I mean, like Kurt Cobain loved the Vaselines, you know? Yeah. Like he had a different sort of palette that he was playing from. Whereas like the Pearl Jams and the Soundgardens also liked punk, but they really liked metal, you know? Yeah. So they were kind of coming from a metal place where I don't really think that's where Nirvana was coming from. And then it became sort of like bros, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And also like if you listen to some of the bits, I was listening to some of the tracks before we kind of came on, and I was thinking about Come As You Are, and I was listening to it, and there's got really UK references, like the bass sounds like Peter Hook for a start, and the guitar sounds like the Police. Like it's completely British references that you can latch onto. Whereas I think if you're someone like me, I just don't care about heavy metal. I don't care about rock.
It's
just
don't like Jeremy spoke in class today. Jeremy,
I'm sorry. I like nearly all of it, to be honest. But that's because it's got massive pop hooks.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so Yasi, you are a woman who knows all, or who at least has a Google Doc that knows all.
That's right.
Okay, tell me about grunge.
I'm so happy. I thought this day would never come that I could pull up my 700-page Google Doc about grunge. Here I am. In 1977. That's right. That's when punk started to take a foothold here in Seattle because there was the first Black Flag show in 79, DOA formed in Vancouver in 78, and then all these like punk bands started to form in Seattle, including one called The Farts. That's right, with a Z. Famously, Duff McKagan played in that band, who went on to be in Guns N' Roses. The U-Men, the Fastbacks. So anyways, there's this kind of like rich indie punk culture that's already there. And then Mark Arm was like, there was like punks in leather jackets hanging out down by the U District, and he like kind of grew up being like, oh, these are like punk rock Fonzies. So like, it was like a little scene that was happening that was punk. And then there was a whole metal scene going like in more of the suburbs, like Queensrÿche. And then also the Young Fresh Fellows, who were a fantastic band, more like alt pop. That was 81. Then this French guy named Hugo opened the Metropolis in 83. Okay. So now bands had a place to play, like a that wasn't like a VA hall or whatever, like an actual venue.
And what's the venue like? So is it just a small
Yeah, it was
place?
like a small, he wanted to make a youth center, but it just made kind of an all ages place. And Susan Silver was the manager who ended up being the manager of Soundgarden and Chris Cornell's wife. So this is all going on, babe. Then the Teen Dance Ordinance comes into effect. That's 1985 when before then, teen dances were unregulated in Seattle, so you could have underage shows and stuff. But then there was a club called the Monastery that was notorious for having bad sexual allegations about what was going on there.
Okay, so they had lots of young people in there and bad things were happening.
So basically then what happens is it's like you can either have a club for 15 to 20-year-olds or older people, but they couldn't be at the same place.
Oh, I quite like that.
It was interesting. Yeah. So
and that's the Teen Dance what?
Teen Dance Ordinance.
So the Teen Dance Ordinance says that the 15 to 20-year-olds must have their own little space.
Exactly. And
I think this is great.
Yeah. So I think it definitely lent itself to like this brewing scene of young bands coming up and having places to play. And then out of that came Green River, which was Mark Arm's band with Stone Gossard, Jeff Ament. It was kind of arguably the first grunge band, but they started in the 80s, you know, and they put a 7-inch out on Sub Pop. So this is where it all starts, right? And then Green River ends up splitting off, becoming Mother Love Bone, which became Pearl Jam That's later.
Some of the names
and Mudhoney.
are just
I know
terrible.
Mother Love Bone is really Mother Love Bone also has a really tragic story where the lead singer, who was a super charismatic guy, died of drugs very young, right when they had signed a major label deal. And Soundgarden's going on. So this is all in the 80s.
Yeah.
So this is the sort of fertile scene where punk is still kind of going on with those bands like the U-Men and stuff, but then also the metal influence is coming from the suburbs. And then you get these like Soundgardens, Mother Love Bones, Green Rivers, and then the Mudhoney that's sort of the Nirvana vein. And that's the world into which Nirvana comes to like be part of the music scene there.
Thank you so much for listening to Talk 90s to me. Before we continue, I've got a quick favour to ask. If you enjoy what we're doing, please do go and rate and review the show and make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It'll help us find more listeners and keep our lovely podcast going. So you're in school. You're identified as your alternative Nirvana
Here I am.
kind
I
of
have
person.
one eyebrow,
Yeah.
one flannel in a dream, you know?
And did they carry on being the leaders of that? Because the thing about Nirvana is they're not around that long, but while they're around,
Yeah, but
they are the biggest thing ever.
The thing that happens, which is obviously very tragic, but also like nothing will cement your legacy like dying too early.
Yeah.
You know, you go from being a sort of a folk hero to like a mythical icon.
Yeah.
I remember everything about the day Kurt Cobain died. Like I
Yeah.
remember coming, I have my still to this day, my arm hair is standing up. I cried all day. I was glued to MTV News. Kurt Loder was talking about it. They started playing the MTV Unplugged all the time, which was like, someone wrote it and really succinctly, and I'm sorry I can't give them credit, but they said that it literally looks like he's playing his own funeral because of the way that is like the candles and stuff. It was a huge deal.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because it was a huge deal as well here.
Yeah.
So what had happened before Kurt Cobain died, there was a kind of time when Smells Like Teen Spirit went mad, but also the idea of Kurt Cobain and then also, I have to say, Courtney Love,
of course, yeah.
the two of them together were like a kind of heroes for us, for everybody.
Totally.
And I think the interesting thing is it really appealed to the British music press, and they had a kind of it sometimes happened with American alternative acts that they land in Britain a little bit before they land in America.
Pixies are a great example. They became famous here and then were re-exported back to us.
Yeah, so we liked them. We thought they were really amazing, and there were all these little things that happened before it ended up that he died.
Yeah.
So there were the things like Nirvana came to Britain, and they appeared on this. I have explained this to you, Yasi, on this program called The Word.
The Word, correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you were slightly confused by it.
Because they had dancers. I understand.
They had dancers, but, they also played, they had lots of bands on there. Yeah. And the first kind of UK live appearance was on The Word. And when he was on, Kurt Cobain introduced it by saying, Courtney Love, the lead singer of the fantastic band Hole, is the best fuck in the world. And then they played Smells Like Teen Spirit, which was, I have to say, it's like a playground gift. This is like, everybody's going to talk about that forever.
First of all, when is the last time you remember any man getting on stage and talking about their girlfriend or wife as a human? Do you first, like, as in, not like, thanks to my lovely wife, no name, like calling out her work and then also giving her a gorgeous sexual compliment, which I'm sure she loved. I have to say, I would be remiss if I didn't say it. I love Nirvana, but the best thing Nirvana ever did for me was give me Hole. Hole changed my whole life. That was beyond.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Of course, because it's a woman band. It's like, it's Courtney and everything. But at the time, there was quite a lot about the fact. There was a very famous Vanity Fair article that every journalist read over here.
Sure.
And in that Vanity Fair article, which was by Lynn Hirschberg, she basically interviews Courtney, who's pregnant. And during that interview, it becomes obvious that she is also taking hard drugs.
Okay. More that she gets her to say that she did while she was pregnant because she didn't know she was pregnant yet. And then sort of like, I felt it was a bit cheap. It's an amazingly kind of, like, I think we can use the word bitchy article.
Yeah, it's an amazing article, but it's
just
very
like, what are you
nasty.
doing? Like, I know a lot of people who like partied a lot before they realized they were pregnant. It's an honest mistake. And then to like frame it in that way to the point that Child Protective Services gets called and it like ruins someone's life. Like,
It's
Not
quite
very
tough.
cool, babe.
No, not very cool. But so Courtney is presented as a kind of nutty addition quite often to Kurt Cobain, really.
Right.
And there's in that kind of traditional idea that she pulls him off his destined holy path. I think that is like quite a common idea.
Classic. Yoko. It's the Yoko.
Yeah.
And don't forget also the flip side of that he wrote her music.
Oh, yes.
He wrote her music. And you're just like, okay.
Yeah, but that just didn't happen.
Can't live. You guys can't just allow someone to be good.
Yes,
Hate
exactly.
it.
To be good.
Yeah.
Okay, so at that time we've got Kurt, we've got Courtney. Everybody is kind of involved in their, I suppose, their romance or the idea of them.
Yeah.
There was a particular, you will not know this, but I'm just going to tell you about it. There's a particular appearance when Nirvana come and they play at Reading Festival, and it's 1992. And Kurt Cobain is wheeled on in a wheelchair.
Oh, I don't know this. There's
it's like
much video of this.
Much
It's in a
videos.
documentary as well.
Yeah, it's very, everybody absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
And they play completely brilliantly, I have to say.
It's incredible.
Yeah, they're very good. And they start off and this is a Reading Festival that I have to say that I remember very clearly because the night before I had nowhere to sleep and neither did about 5 friends of ours. And we'd wandered around various hotels until we spotted a spare key, asked for that key and slept in some poor person's room that wasn't there.
We used to be a proper society that you could do that.
Exactly.
Can't do that now.
It was easy. We had the chef hammering on the door in the morning. We did leave. But they play like More Than a Feeling into Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's very jolly.
Yeah.
It's like a jolly performance. It's really upbeat. So which is why it seems so weird that he ends up in the way that he does. But that is what happens. So I feel like before we talk about his death, let's talk about MTV Unplugged because that was really important as well.
So important.
Okay, so that happens in December 1993. Yeah. They've done another album. They've done In Utero.
Right. With Steve Albini.
Steve Albini, they do it in 2 weeks, which is great. And
it's a fantastic album.
Fantastic album. And it's a move away from what they see now as like the amazing pop of Nevermind.
Right.
They do a kind of alternative, more scuzzy, kind of PJ Harvey influenced.
I believe that's why they hired Albini.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he had done the PJ Harvey album.
Exactly. Yeah. And they do that and they've moved back into the alternative world. But everybody still loves them. They do this Unplugged appearance on MTV, which is essentially an acoustic gig.
Yeah.
Right. It's really good. Oh my goodness.
I have to say they're all really, most of them are really good. That's the most famous one, but they've done many of them. Like the Alice, again, these are not bands you guys care about, but the Alice in Chains one is incredible and really, really tragic and moving. I'm telling you, it's really good. It's really good. The Pearl Jam one is great. There's a lot of really good ones.
Okay.
But this is the one.
This is the one. But one of the reasons why it's very good is it's quite casual. Like you feel like when they play really beautifully. But there's constant kind of chat about which one are we going to play now? Right. Shall we do this?
Yeah. And Pat Smear's there. Yes. Yep. Yeah. So they have Pat Smear, which is so cool. It's casual. It's like they play some great covers, which I think is so important. Yeah, they do. They play a Vaseline song. They play Man Who Sold the World. They play the last one that they play is a Leadbelly song. Yeah. Where Did You Sleep Last Night? And that's just amazing. I think they also play a Meat Puppet song, but they play a few different ones. So at that, he looks beautiful. They play amazingly. Yeah. It's very sweet. He's quite low key, and at that time, supposedly, things are not great on the drug front. He's quite low, I think. Yeah, it's not cheerful like he was at Reading Festival. Right, it's quite low, and things gradually start going badly. There's various kind of rehab attempts, various overdoses. It's just pretty awful. Yeah. And then in April 94, he dies by suicide. It's really upsetting. It's absolutely devastating. Horrible. Like I was phoned. I remember who phoned me. I remember where I was sitting when I was called. It's genuinely, obviously different generations have this, different people have John Lennon, they have like Elvis Presley or whatever, but it was genuinely completely shocking and everybody was devastated. 100%. Across the whole of America, across the whole of Britain. It was enormous, wasn't it? Yeah. Do you remember all the footage of like the kids in Seattle gathering with Courtney and I'm going to cry. Like and her reading the letter and and the letter is very upsetting. It's very upsetting. Because it's essentially an absolute encapsulation of somebody being so depressed that they can't feel the joy that they had in their work. So he obviously is an amazing performer, is a fantastic musician, but he's basically saying, I can't feel it anymore. Yeah, and I don't think people understand, maybe now looking back, because now every person's desire is to be famous. Do you know what I mean? But like those bands did not aspire to be famous. Their great life hope was to make enough money to live.
Yeah.
And I can't speak, I was not in their minds. I'm sure they wanted to have some level of success or whatever, but like none of them set out to like be the most famous person in America. Like that was not on the table. And I can't imagine how jarring it must have been, you know, to go from I'm making some cool songs and playing them in little clubs in Seattle to like being hounded. And also, you know, a lot is made of it, but like becoming mainstream means that people that you hated are now at your show being like, we love you, man. And you're like, the cognitive dissonance, like I think it would break anybody.
Yeah, I think so. And also, I think there's an element of that particular kind of music, which is to do with authenticity and credibility. And that's really, really hard to feel like, even though I think that they're a completely credible band. Of course they are, they're amazing. But I think that if you're in that band and you become very famous and you're acknowledged by people that used to bully you at school.
Yeah.
In fact, you're loved by people that used to bully you at school. That messes with what your idea of what you're doing.
Totally. And just like everything about it. Like, I mean, Eddie Vedder had the same level of fame and he also went, I think, a bit crazy, but handled it a little differently because he wasn't really into drugs. But like to see like your clothing co-opted into a Vogue fashion spread for like, here's a $6,000 green cardigan a la Kurt Cobain. Here's like an $8,000 brown corduroy jacket. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing that happened. It's because it became like a fashion. There's a kind of Perry Ellis,
exactly, the Marc Jacobs famous
Marc
grunge
Jacobs
collection.
Grunge collection, which was just, I remember seeing it and thinking, what are you doing?
They did it with punk too. I mean, it's like all subcultures become co-opted by capitalism.
Yeah, they get eaten
immediately.
And then spewed out again.
And then spewed out,
Yeah. Okay, so look, let's talk about what we think that there's a kind of weird shift that happens with them, because I think there are some bands that really like jump out of time, right? So they are of their time. They're absolutely of their time. They represent their time. They represent something that needed to be expressed, which they did. But they're also out of their time, meaning that you can play their songs to anyone of whatever era. They will love those songs. So, I mean, kind of like the Beatles, weirdly. They're a bit like that. But what I wanted to know really is what you felt like their, I mean, this is a terrible word, but their legacy was, because they kickstarted quite a lot of different things, I think.
Yeah.
What things would you pick out?
Man, there's so many, right? Well, one is obviously Britpop.
Yeah.
I mean, we read about it so much that so many bands were sort of, their ethos was formed by being like, grunge? We don't want that. Like, what is that? The minute for like 2 seconds rock was focused on America, they were like, absolutely the fuck not, babe. Bring it home. Oi, mister, you me mother. This is an amazing album. Here's the Union Jack. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I feel like that had a lot to do with, they made alternative culture mainstream. So like that, since then, it's never not been mainstream. Like the alternative is mainstream. We can't even call it alternative anymore. Yeah. Urban Outfitters, all of that is just full mainstream culture. They also launched a million imitators that eventually sort of like I don't know how to say it. It's like a copy of a fax of a copy, like that we got us like Nickelback, which I like Nickelback for what it is, or like Hinder. These are like bands that are like who?
Nickelback. Everybody knows who Nickelback is.
This is how you remind me of who I really am. That was the number one most played song on the radio in America for the decade of 2000 and 2010. Do you know that? Isn't that insane?
That's mad.
Mad. So a lot of just sort of like distilled versions of the crunchy guitar that became butt rock kind of, you know, but that's the seed of Nirvana. I also think it's very interesting because, I have a theory that culture sort of stopped in time once the internet came along.
Yeah.
And so they're always cool. Like, I don't think the Beatles were always cool. I think the Beatles have gone in and out. Like, when I was a kid, the Beatles were not cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know any age of person since Nirvana that would ever look at Nirvana and be like, that's not cool.
Yeah, that's true. Because actually, if you think about, so I would think of somebody like David Bowie.
Yeah.
So David Bowie, obviously, there were times when I would say that David Bowie did not look cool,
right,
and was not making cool music.
Yeah.
But we allow it, and he and he returned to his full powers kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nirvana, because it's that awful thing because
they're enshrined in amber.
Yeah.
Like, but also because alternative culture became mainstream and nothing really supplanted it. It's just Nirvana's always cool, Like I feel like you could probably ask your daughter, is Nirvana cool? And she'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's also like what they're like. They're a bit like Oasis. They're like folk songs. Everyone knows them.
Yeah,
you don't need to. You don't need.
It's classic rock.
Yeah, you don't need to actually buy any of the albums. No. You know the songs.
And the thing that's the craziest to me, and I can't get over it, is that when I was listening to Nirvana, the Beatles were 30 years old. Right? Yeah, and they seemed ancient.
Yeah.
And now when teens are listening to Nirvana, they're 40 years old.
Yeah.
It's older than the Beatles were when Nirvana came out.
Yeah.
But it seems fresh, kind of.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Because
Right?
it doesn't seem classic. It seems like new.
When
almost.
I would look at the Beatles on Ed Sullivan when I was 12, I was like, look at that old-timey music with black and white little suits or whatever, But you don't think that about Nirvana. It's because things haven't changed that much.
I tell you how you can tell that as well is if you go to Camden in London, which is basically where, all young people will go. There's definitely a point where every young person goes to Camden just to find some kind of like rings that make your fingers go green.
Green, totally.
That kind of thing. The Kurt Cobain's is still there in Camden. There are certain people that are, Amy Winehouse is still there.
Bob Marley, Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
I always call them dorm room poster people.
Yeah.
That's the dorm room posters.
Definitely. And I would also say that the picture that people use of Kurt Cobain, which is normally the one where he has his hair over his eyes and he's got eyeliner on.
Yeah.
My friend took that picture.
Really?
Yeah.
Fab.
Martin Goodacre took that picture and he has lived off that.
Good job, Martin Goodacre.
He made it. That was like absolutely
It's a great photo.
So I think that there are kind of funny little legacies that come off it. The Britpop one I do think is interesting because basically when Blur did a tour in America in like early 92, all they were confronted with was Nirvana. Like, absolutely, that was it. And they were a bit like, great, we're trying to tour around. Nobody likes our music. We're in debt. That's why
they were like, get out of here.
Yeah, they were absolutely not interested. So one of the things that they did was just think, right, we have to be better. We have to make our own version of what this is, but a British version. And the same with Noel Gallagher. He basically heard, I hate myself and you wanted
I know, he was like, what is this cunt on about?
Yeah, he's just like, I cannot, And also, I think a factor in that was because Britain had been through rave, and rave is optimistic.
Right.
So we were a bit like, this is great music, but it's like really depressing.
It's not very British to be like that. Like, it's like, I feel like the closest it gets here is like shoegaze, where it's like, yeah, I'm depressed, but I'm not going to really explicitly tell you about it, but you're going to know about it from this music. Whereas, like, it's a bit more explicit in America.
Yeah, they just tell you.
Just tell you right to your face.
Yeah, tell you right to your face and get the tattoos that tell you as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another interest, well, I forgot to mention, Bush is also
of course
something that Nirvana wrought in the lineage of Nickelback, but pop punk also. Because like I was saying before with the reaction to that sepia toned videos, it was also to the music. Like people fatigued, I think, of grunge because it is quite depressing and hard. And so when like Weezer or Blink-182 or Green Day, because Green Day was right there. Like the minute, it's like, I think their album came out, Offspring and Green Day's albums came out right within like a month of Kurt Cobain dying.
Oh, wow. Did they?
Yeah, it was 94. So like, and then all of a sudden it was kind of like, this is the thing,
yeah,
we've
got like a cheerful version of this. It's almost like a palatable version, isn't it? It's like, if you listen to this, it expresses some of the feelings, but it's okay. It's not a kind of self-destructive, suicidal edge to it. This is like
and it's fab.
upbeat.
Listen, I love it. And they were all kind of existing at the same time. Like there's a couple years there where it was like everything was happening. Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Green Day, Offspring, Hole. Like it was what a time. Elastica, like you guys, we had it so good.
It's your time, Yasi.
I know. We'll never go back.
I feel also it slightly introduced. I mean, I think the 90s did this anyway, but that Lollapalooza festival idea.
100%.
So Nirvana were never. Were they in
No, they were offered one and they turned it. I think they pulled out.
Yeah. So they pulled out. And Lollapalooza was essentially like an alternative festival.
Yeah, started by Perry Farrell of Jane's Addiction. Yeah, it was actually supposed to be the last Jane's Addiction tour. That's what it was started to be. And with like, he's like, I want to bring a bunch of people on with his, Mark Geiger, I think is his name, his like booking agent. And then it was so popular, which I also have to give a little credit to Ian Astbury because they really copied the idea from Ian Astbury, who had the Gathering of the Tribes, which was predated Lollapalooza. And it was this like multi-genre cool festival where like you had like Ice-T, I think it was Ice, Body Count, and Soundgarden playing the same show.
It's funny because actually that's like a British idea of festivals.
Totally.
So like we kind of already had that, but I think in America it was really
Makes sense
exciting.
that Ian Astbury brought it over for us.
Yeah, exactly. So like so that was a really exciting thing, and I think that kind of Lollapalooza idea. Like I was actually thinking about the 1995 Lollapalooza, which had like Sonic Youth. And
I went to that one. It was the best one ever.
Okay, you can tell me about that.
Can't wait. I loved it so. First of all, I want to cry. Like Sonic Youth, Hole, Pavement, Elastica, who joined because Sinead O'Connor got pregnant and had to drop out. Jesus Lizard. I mean, there's so many good bands played. Hole was so big by that point because they were huge, you know. Sonic Youth was the headliner, but people cleared out after Hole. And so anyone who stayed, we all got to get really close up. This is just the LA show. And Sonic Youth played for like 2.5 hours and it was incredible.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's so cool.
I read very recently about Hole performing at one of those Lollapaloozas.
Yeah.
And Courtney basically, like, slightly, I mean, you know, she's Courtney, she can lose it and whenever.
Yeah.
So she slightly lost it. She pushed it. She got the band to leave and she sang Penny Royalty and she was saying, don't forget.
Yes, about, because you have to also, like, think that album came out right after he died. And she had to kind of, like, choose, like, am I going to just not, this is my career, like I've been working towards this, or am I gonna like thug it out? And she did, you know, and I can't imagine how hard that must have been.
Yeah, terrible.
But also, like, what do you want to do, sit at home and stare at the wall and cry? Like, I'd rather go on tour too and try to like exercise some feelings on stage. But she was also villainized for that.
Well, yeah, she's quite a good villain though. Like, I mean, I really like Courtney, but she's good at being a villain.
Yeah. I prefer when they villainize her than when they turn her into a victim, because I don't think she's a victim.
God, she's so not that.
I know people like to do that. Oh, people, like the Britney Spears apology, like, oh, we treated her badly in the night. I was like, no, save it. She doesn't need that.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't need that. She really doesn't need that. Okay, so look, we've kind of done what Nirvana have changed.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, if you were going to pick a moment, a Nirvana moment that you really liked, what would that be?
That I really liked?
Yeah.
Oh, when they played the VMAs.
Okay, tell us about that.
All I remember is that it was such a cool performance, and Chris Novoselic threw his bass up in the air and it hit him in the head. It was just this like beautiful stage. There's so many. The Unplugged is so important. Just that they existed.
I know. I think it's quite astonishing that they existed, actually.
Yeah.
Because so there's a really brilliant kind of biography called like Heavier Than Heaven.
Charles Cross wrote it.
Yeah, and it's an amazing book because it's so detailed. It's the kind of journalism I can't do where you interview absolutely everybody and everything is detailed.
He was also there. Like, I think he was around during the time. So.
He was around. So it is amazing from like it's got all the details of like Kurt Cobain's family, everything. But the thing that I really like about it was that idea that, you know, these things happened, but at the time they didn't seem significant, or you didn't understand that they were going to become significant. Yeah. They didn't know just how good they were. So there's a bit right at the very beginning when Smells Like Teen Spirit they've just started playing it. There's like a little meet and greet. They expect 50 people to turn up. And they can't get in. They can't get in themselves. It's so busy. And that is what I really like about pop culture, where something's just put out into the ether and everyone goes, this is me. You don't understand. This is me. I've been waiting for this. This is the best thing ever. And the people who've made it don't even realize it.
It's like, what was the word we talked about on the last episode that you said? Morphic resonance?
Yeah, morphic resonance.
I think it was really like a morphic resonance moment, because it's not like Sub Pop had a crazy marketing budget or something. I mean, they were on Geffen by then, but like Sub Pop was still involved, and it's just like the confluence of things that had to happen to break this open was all there. There's a great book about it, Route 666 on the Road to Nirvana by Gina Arnold. She kind of talks about like all the groundwork that was laid by the alternative bands that were predated Nirvana that sort of primed the pump for this to break through like that.
Yeah, and what it does is basically tell you that there is an alternative to whatever, like hair metal or whatever. And what it's saying to you is there is a music out there, as a young person, there is a music out there that can express what you feel like.
Exactly.
That can express a kind of alienation and an energy.
Yeah.
But also a kind of, there's a kind of love for your fellow outsider within it. It's not just...
And like it was always
everyone.
there, right? But you had to find it. So you had to work to find it. And so I think what was so special about Nirvana, especially for someone like me who was like 9, 10 years old, like how was I going to find Husker Du? I was 10, you know? But like Nirvana just was delivered to my doorstep. And that was incredible. Like I got to have that, and that was life-changing.
Yeah, completely. And MTV was very important for that, wasn't it?
Yeah. There's a woman, oh my God, I'm going to forget her name because she's so important. I'm so sorry that I don't remember her name, but she's my friend Kevin Long's cousin. She worked at MTV, and she was a huge champion of Nirvana, and she's a big reason of why that video even got played. Like she would come to the meetings and be like, you don't understand, this is important. And that changed everything. You know, MTV was you like music, you're a teenager, you watch MTV. And if she hadn't have pushed for that, like, I'm not sure it would have broken through that way.
Yeah, because we didn't have music telly. Music telly was like so exotic.
Yeah.
Like if I ever went to work in the, go and interview a band in America, the most exciting thing would be just to be in a hotel where you could have MTV.
So great.
So exciting. But that definitely, and you just used to watch MTV when you came home from school.
The minute I got home from school, we'd turn on MTV and watch it until it was time for dinner or whatever. We had to do your homework, I guess.
Yeah. I remember another thing that I thought of, which Nirvana actually did, which is weirdly in Britain, when it happened, all the kind of main proper newspapers, so not the music press, so things like The Sun or the Mirror or the Guardian and the Times. So Kurt Cobain died. Everybody was devastated.
Yeah.
It was huge. You could see it was huge in America, but it was also huge in Britain. So these people, the people who ran those papers, were wondering why their children were crying.
Right.
And they genuinely knew nothing about this band. They didn't know anything. So what they started to do was literally employ people like me.
Yeah,
like
didn't you get a job? Because
I got a job. I literally got a job on The Observer because I think they looked around and thought, we need a music writer.
Yeah.
Because this is really important and we need a music writer. So you seem to be quite good, we'll have you.
Yeah.
And so all the broadsheets and like The Sun and the Mirror and everyone started employing kind of people who knew about music. And then that brought music even more into the kind of national,
right. And that's another
conversation.
reason like we wouldn't have had Britpop, right? If you didn't already have this infrastructure of caring about music at the broadsheets when it wasn't just Melody Maker and NME. So that's really interesting too.
Yeah, and especially actually because what happened was after that when Britpop happened, as a result of Nirvana, no, not entirely as a result of Nirvana,
grunge
but as a
in
bit,
general.
It was on our doorstep. So that meant that all the paparazzi didn't have to fly to America. They just went to Camden.
Yeah, and they're like, here we go, click.
Yeah, exactly. There's somebody asleep in the gutter because they've drunk too much, and apparently they're really famous. I'll take their photo. Thanks very much. But it was definitely that idea that you could cover something that was a youth scene and get the celebrities out of it that were quite cool celebrities. Kate Moss is a cool person.
Super cool.
And a lot of people around Britpop were very cool. And that came out of Nirvana.
Yeah. I think the most important legacy for me, just as a personal anecdote, and I think this is probably true for a lot of people, is that they opened the door for me to go backwards. So like I mentioned that book, which I bought because I was obsessed with Nirvana, right? I'm literally 11 years old. And I'm reading this book, and every band she mentions, I'm taking my allowance money and I'm walking to the Warehouse Music and I'm buying a Replacements record and I'm buying a Fugazi record. They did a lot of referencing and like liner notes, and then his famous like list of his favorite albums came out. Yeah. He unlocked a whole world of like underground music and past music for people that would have maybe not gotten there on their own or would have taken longer to get there, So I'm like 11 years old listening to the Replacements, like having my whole life changed by them as well. Like it was really important for me.
It's amazing. It's like a little library, isn't it? That's what music, I'm not sure that it does it now because music is delivered in a different way, but all those references that people mention definitely make a difference.
Yeah, you would remember you would like read the liner notes and see if there was any bands mentioned, then you'd be like, I gotta go find out about The Fall or like whatever, like who's The Fall? I don't need to go do a little research on on this. Because it wasn't as easy to find out. You couldn't just look on the internet. You had to go to the store and ask if they had the album and buy whatever one they had and figure it out.
Yeah, and also quite often in the store they were a bit rude to you, so it was a bit scary.
1,000,000%. Those are the stores you shoplifted from.
Yeah, you bought your singles from Woolworths.
Yeah.
And then you went there and like,
Yeah, we used to have long box CDs. You remember those? And those were real hard to shoplift, but I could do it. Big pants.
straight in there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so you will be unsurprised to know that Talk 90s to Me has a kind of rolling 90s playlist on Spotify called Talk 90s to Me, and we add to it every week, and everybody that comes on has to pick a song from the 90s that they want to add to the playlist. What is yours?
This was a real Sophie's choice. If Sophie's choice was between 100 songs that I love, so thanks for that. But I'm going to be true to my heart and pick, very hard even from this album to pick one because Live Through This is perfect wall to wall. But I will pick Miss World off Live Through This by Hole.
Oh, that's so great. Plus, great cover.
So everything is perfect about this album.
Everything
There's
is
nothing wrong with
perfect
this
about
album.
it.
It's literally perfect.
Why that track? Why particularly that? Tell me why.
Why Miss World? I don't know. That song just like, it just, the same way I was saying Nirvana spoke to my, young self, that one also really spoke to my young self. It had like this melancholy, it had anger, it was just everything. And it had this like heightened femininity, but also masculinity. It was just perfect.
And it's called Miss World, which
Miss
is
World.
just amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody kill me.
It's there.
Yeah.
That was Talk 90s to Me featuring Yasi Salek, whose excellent podcast Bandsplain is available on Spotify and everywhere else you get your podcasts. Yasi has a way of making everything interesting. So her podcasts are really long, like proper deep dives, but never boring, which is, to be honest, very, very rare. She had me talking for about 7 hours about Suede and just the 2.5 about Elastica, but I can recommend the whole of her podcast back catalogue because it is a dream. And if you want more 90s music, I've written a book called Uncommon People, Britpop and Beyond in 20 songs, which is like a mixtape of mid-90s banger, now out in paperback so you can kind of scridge it up and put it in your bag. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky. See you next time.